Joined now by Sourabh Gupta, Senior Asia, Pacific, and International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. This is an issue we've discussed a lot in 2017. 2017 winding down, so I'd like to ask you to reflect back on this year and also maybe look forward to 2018. Where was the situation as we move through this year? Where do you see it moving now that this dialogue, I guess, is improving in some respects?
Yes, I'd say that they've been able to place a ground under their differences with regard to the border. Coming into 2017, there was tension in the bilateral relationship, and the tensions were actually, the relationship was kind of, I wouldn't say spiraling down, but it was moving downwards. Things got obviously worse before Doklam and into Doklam. But both sides, I think, got alert after Doklam that these sort of issues, really, we cannot afford it frequently enough or ever. And so I think this has helped create a floor beneath which the relationship will not slip, both at the boundary area and in the broader strategic context. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be great improvement going forward.
It's interesting, though, when you think of China and India, they're part of the BRICS group. They meet all the time. You would think that, but then there was all this, speculation before Xiamen, what's going to happen, all of that. And this is the 20th round of negotiations, just on the border issues. That says a lot about just how complicated all of this is, doesn't it?
The border issue is very complicated, but what I would say, too, is that the issue has been really well institutionalized of late. Of course, they have certain treaties and agreements with regard to the boundary, on both in terms of confidence-building measures and in terms of trying to look towards resolution. But just think in the last 2 months, last month they had what is called a working mechanism for consultation with regard to the boundary issue. Military officers and diplomats sit across the table. Wang Yi was there in India for the RIC, Russia-India-China summit, in which he had a bilateral then also with the Indian foreign minister. Now we have the special representative come across and discuss this. So this is very important people. This matter is of importance, and very important people are looking at it and ensuring that this doesn't get worse. But yes, there have been so many rounds and there has not been that much progress. And frankly, I would say for the past couple of years, because there's not been that much progress, the special representatives have even been tasked to look at India-China relations beyond the boundary issue, which they did again this time around.
Yeah, and I was going to go there as well. Let's take it beyond the border, because when you think of China and India, they're both emerging powers, emerging economies. There's regional competitions there as well. All of that mixes in too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. The geopolitics of everything mixes in out here, and especially because China has gone so forthrightly with regard to its Belt and Road initiative, and there are a lot of takers for Belt and Road in South Asia. Every other country in South Asia, and suddenly India feels like, oh, what's happened to my little sphere of influence? Am I going to be marginalized out there? And so India itself has been unhappy about not the initiative as such, but what it might mean from a larger strategic perspective. So these sort of issues keep creeping in and out of the relationship. Of course, then we have the issue of Donald Trump has come into office and he's talked about the quadrilateral powers and India being part of this Indo-Pacific mechanism, which might be seen as a means to contain China. So China, in a way, is kind of acting south. India, in a way, is acting east. Both of them are kind of getting into each other's faces, and there needs to be a way in which they need to communicate their intentions a little better, so that there's better, it's a more transparent relationship, and they can both keep each other at ease.
Well, let's hope 2018 provides that. Thanks so much for coming in, offering analysis. Always a pleasure.